Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title starts right now. Here's your host, Bill Nappet.
Welcome to the show, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Thank you for joining us on yet another radio adventure today, a very special show. So whether you're listening right here in Houston, Texas, the Woodlands, you might even be in Anchorage, Alaska, listening to this on the internet after the broadcast. Who knows? We have great information, and as I said, a special show today, as Stewart Title has so many distinctions, and one of them is our guest here. He is the chief economist at Stewart Title for about 22 years, formerly the chief economist at the Texas A&M Real Estate Center. It is always exciting, informative, and so much more to have Dr. Ted C. Jones on the show, and here he is.
It's great to be back. What a nice time to be back in Texas, and great to be on this really cool show.
It really is. And of course, you say that. You live in Texas. Your office is right here at Stewart Title, our corporate center, but you travel so much, Ted, and learn so much and share that information all the time.
You know, my wife jokes that I live at Hilton.
Yeah.
I may have a house and a wife here, but I'm at Hilton Properties quite a bit, or Hilton Garden Inns or wherever. Holiday Inn Expresses even. But no, it's a great place to live in Texas. Thank heavens we live here today.
It really is. So let's tell people, and certainly real estate, I'd say there's two categories of people. Certainly people that are in the real estate profession know you and love you here in Houston and far beyond. But then you have people that are not in the real estate profession that listen to this show far beyond, certainly here in Houston, and they, even if we're not in the process of a real estate transaction or we're thinking about buying or selling, people love to hear about real estate, and you also provide information that they will enjoy. So let's tell people, first of all, right here in Houston, it's been an interesting 2019. Let's tell people about 2019, maybe a word or two of your perspective, and then let's look ahead.
It was a great year. I mean, if you look at I have a three-legged stool of talk about where the economy is and where it's going. And one's all about jobs. And, we have more jobs any time in history, both in the U.S. and in Houston, Texas, and in Texas. Next one you have about incomes. We've had the best income growth this year compared to a year ago than any time in the last 10 years. And then you look at other aspects. We all live in real estate. Whether you rent it, whether you own it, you live in it. And so we're all connected back to that. But all up, real estate, the economy is just doing really well right now. And as we wrap up this year end, we can all look back and say, wow, that was a good year.
And as you're talking about, we are living real estate. Indeed, we are. As we drive from one place to another, we look around. There's commercial real estate. There's homes. There are high-rise buildings. Certain parts of town, uptown Houston, for one, the high-rises are abundant. We hear about more high-rises here and there and everywhere. There's cranes building distribution centers and everything. It's a fascinating city to have been here. I got here in 1982, and to see the development, even in the last couple of years, it's ridiculous.
It's amazing, too, at how much more diverse the Houston economy has become. I can remember literally just 20 years ago, local regional economists said, Houston, 50% of the economy is dependent on oil and gas. It's no longer true. Only 5% of our total workforce works in mining and logging, which includes oil and gas. Nationwide, it's 2.5% in Houston. Nationwide, it's 1.5%. So, while it's still a major play in the Houston economy, we're a much more diverse economy. Thank heavens we have the second most highest tonnage port in the United States of America. Thank heavens we have the world's largest medical center. And those are, assets that we perhaps don't respect and appreciate as much as we should.
People are coming to the state of Texas and to Houston in major droves. We've heard about that not just in 2019, but even before. It seems like when will that stop? And then I hate to even use the R word, but because things are so good, we can feel it. Visitors can feel it when they just arrive for a weekend or whatever. But recession, will there ever be a recession in your
Oh, yeah. View? There's going to be a recession, just not now. So first of all, let's just dissect what a recession is. A recession's official definition is two or more consecutive quarters of negative GDP. Now, GDP is gross domestic product. That's the total value of all the goods and services we produce. So let's just back up and see if we've started that. So that means you got to be 6 months into it before you know you have a recession. First quarter this year, GDP growth 3.1%, not negative. Second quarter, 2.1%, not negative. Third quarter, 1.9%, first of three estimates, not negative. Not only are we not in recession, we haven't even started one. I don't see one coming this next year. There's going to be a recession, just not now. And that's good news.
And as real estate professionals, let's think about Houston right now. The real estate professionals in Houston, as they have been on this show for many, many shows, they all seem so upbeat. Every once in a while, we find a part of town or a subdivision or something that is not as popular, or the homes aren't selling that smoothly. But it seems like the news has been positive this past year, where a lot of great activity and a lot of excitement from the real estate professionals. But real estate professionals, from your perspective, and you talk to them at your presentations and other places, what are the things that they come to you with that are top of mind? Because they seek you as a real estate guru that you are, and a man that's doing research all the time. What are the things that they ask you?
You know, we're in now the longest economic growth period the United States has ever seen. And of course, the question is, when does it stop? And my answer to that is, economic growth doesn't die of old age. It dies of events. Think about it. 9/11, we had an event. Economic growth ceased. We had the housing bubble. Housing bubble was essentially this. We're going to get rich quick by owning real estate. And oh, by the way, we don't have to have any mortgage standards or qualifying to get it. All I need to qualify for a loan is a heartbeat. And so lo and behold, we had a real estate bubble implosion, and no one's surprised because there's no such thing as a free lunch. Someone's got to pay for it. So you look at those things, but we're sitting here looking at no events right now on the horizon that are looking at potential to drive us into recession as we speak. It's all about jobs. So let's talk about jobs real quick. You know, our current job growth nationwide, they'd round it to 1.5%. I'm going to tell you it's 1.47%, but that's good enough. Let me put that in comparison. How good is 1.47%? The last 40 years, our annual compound job growth rate in the U.S. is 1.3%. We're growing jobs today at 12% pace above the 40-year average. That's huge. Double-digit growth over and above that. Then you look at Houston, Texas. Again, I told you the U.S. job growth rate, which is 12% above the U.S. at 1.47%. Houston's 2.59%. So let's round it off. We're 1.5% nationwide, 2.6% in Texas. Aren't you glad you live here? Those people got to live and eat and shop and get medical treatments and play and go to church and schools and everything. All those are uses of real estate. They got to do it someplace. And that's why people are so upbeat about this. Not only do we have more jobs than ever before in Houston, they're some of the best jobs we've ever had. They're no longer that just oil and gas jobs. It's everything, a much more diversified workforce, thank heavens.
And we see construction everywhere. Just the other week, I drove to San Antonio. First of all, you have construction on the highway. As you drive on the way out of Houston, you see projects to the left, to the north, and the south. And oh yeah, when you get to San Antonio, they're on the march too. There's road construction in a major way, and there are so many new businesses. And just in the area, I was in the northeast area, kind of near the cavern over there, but the northeast of San Antonio, and it looks like it's just going crazy. Another major city that's bringing people in.
Earlier this week, I spoke in Dallas. And you just think about the companies that relocated to Dallas. And it's kind of one of the big first ones was JCPenney's when we moved in the Plano area. Toyota of North America moved out there. Now they're moving Toyota, maybe even starting to make cars there. Go to San Antonio. Every Toyota pickup truck sold in the world is made in San Antonio, Texas. Wow. And they're getting ready to expand that plant site. They purchased where they could do multiples of those plants on that allocation. Smart, forward thinking on that. Those are just two places. Go to Austin, Texas. Now, there's one Silicon Valley, it's San Jose. But it's becoming so expensive, both tax-wise and operational cost-wise, that we're seeing these technological Satellites spring up. You go to Fort Collins, Colorado, Colorado State University. Most people don't realize this. HP has been in Fort Collins since the 1970s. Hewlett Packard. No one knows that they built all that stuff there. You throw it in Austin, Texas. Incredible, from computer chip plants to every major player, whether it's Google or Amazon or Apple, all have major facilities there. Go to Provo, Orem, Salt Lake City, again, another major tech center site. We're seeing tech become a major play, not in all cities. And if we wanted something more in Houston, I'd love to see more high-tech, high-value-added workforce that goes with that. But again, Texas is benefiting from that because of its favorable cost of living. We all think that Austin's relatively expensive. Go to San Jose or San Francisco or Los Angeles, you think, oh, wow, this is cheap and it's a great place to live too. How about that?
It is. You mentioned Dallas. Let's go to Dallas again. Tell us about Dallas. I haven't been there in quite a while, but Dallas is also doing very well.
Dallas is doing phenomenal. Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Their job growth rate, they're actually growing more net jobs, but they should because they're a larger marketplace than we are. Give me 1 second here, and I'll pull up their job growth rate, which, like I said, I did earlier this week when I spoke. North Dallas Chamber of Commerce is a great annual event. I think I've spoke there for 25 or 30 years in a row. Dallas-Fort Worth Arlington job growth rate in the latest 12 months, 2.7%. I was bragging at Houston at
2.5.
2.59. They're 2.7. They had 100,200 net new jobs in the last 12 months, folks. It's huge. And they're good jobs, and it's great news. A lot of Texas is doing the same.
And in Dallas, what are the economic drivers there industry-wise?
It's a lot more. It's more financial services. It's a lot of corporate centers that aren't necessarily oil and gas or petrochemical related. You know, we have a high emphasis on petrochemicals and oil and gas in Houston. They're more financial services, retail, across the spectrum. I look at it when I was, Stewart's trade on the New York Stock Exchange. I'd always go see a top 10 shareholder in Dallas. It just didn't happen very often that already top 10 shareholders living in Houston. So Dallas is also a major financial services center on the map.
The big three cities in Texas, Dallas, San Antonio, or big four, Austin. And Houston. So it's kind of like a Mount Rushmore of excitement.
You need to throw in El Paso too. And the reason I say that, I don't think, El Paso is a Rodney Dangerfield of Texas. El Paso del Norte, the pass at the north. We live here in Houston, and what is it, a 12-hour drive on cruise control to El Paso on I-10? Realize that El Paso is equal distance between Los Angeles and Houston. It's a major service center for that entire portion of the United States out in that area. When you throw in Juarez, I call it the El Paso-plex, if you throw it across the border, well over 1 million people, it is a major center for trade, transportation, logistics, manufacturing, services for the communities around it. Absolutely incredible place. So throw in El Paso too. And El Paso, statistic earlier this year, at that one point in time, it was deemed the most affordable housing market in the United States of America because 89% of the homes that were listed on the MLS system could be purchased by someone earning the median age in the United States of America. That's so very affordable housing values too.
And outside that's 5 cities. What other notable cities are happening in Texas? It's a giant state.
Yeah, all right. So we're seeing a big move from our primary markets, and we've just listed all those. Although real big primary markets we used to say were cities like New York and Chicago, San Francisco and Los Angeles, Houston, Dallas. We're getting these secondary and tertiary cities. Denver, which also is kind of like that. If you want to go, you think you can go to the hill country and buy a house or buy some acreage, you need to revisit that. Just go to Kerrville or Fredericksburg, which are booming, absolutely booming, as people are realizing they're willing to commute hour and a half into San Antonio or to Austin and live that lifestyle. You would, if you haven't been to Fredericksburg lately, I'm not a big wine drinker, but you kind of think in a little bit you're in a Texas landscape that's got a Napa influence to it. There's so doggone many wineries across the spectrum there. You see that. Corpus Christi is one we don't mention enough. Corpus Christi, if you want to talk about waterfront, properties of a major city. Corpus Christi may be one of the most affordable waterfront cities in the United States of America. Galveston's the same way. I have a place down in Galveston. You talk about a fun city that's only an hour drive from here. And again, Galveston, while the hurricanes have been, did decimate it, on the other hand, that just means we rebuilt it and improved it a lot quicker than it otherwise would have been. So you look at cities such as that. Bryan College Station, my gosh, you have one of the top growth universities in the United States of America, and they're blowing and going and setting records. Very often when you see these top 10 lists, if it's minor market areas, secondary, tertiary cities such as Bryan College Station, they're making those lists. It just goes on and on and on these cities.
And we were talking with Dr. Ted C. Jones, Chief Economist at Stewart Title. Ted, let's tell people if they want to follow you. You bring out information all the time. I know the website. One of them is jonesonrealestate.com.
Well, no. It's just Google Jones on Real Estate, and it's actually on Stewart.com site, and that site name is blog.stewart.com. But if you can't remember that, just Google Jones on Real Estate. It'll take you to Stewart.com to where that site is.
Jones on Real Estate. And then also on Twitter, how can they find you?
Twitter, just DRTCJ, Dr. Ted C. Jones. That's the shorthand on it, DRTCJ, and you'll find me.
Now, I also want to say that realtors know here in Houston you make presentations around January, and you have some coming up. I don't have the times, but I want to tell people to be ready for them, whatever area of town you are. If you're a real estate professional, all you have to do, or if you're anyone else, find your Stewart Title Business Development Officer. That is easy to do because let's say you live in the Woodlands and you don't know Becky Shannon House is your BDO. All you have to do is Google Stewart Title in the Woodlands. You'll see her name, and you could find out when Ted will be up there giving his presentation. But to give you an idea, and the same technique for any area of town, but to give you an idea, he's going to be January 14th right here on the West Loop here in Houston. The Woodlands, January 16th, January 17th, Tomball, Champion, Cypress, the 20th, Katy, and Kingwood. This is like a blitz, Ted. The 21st, League City, Friendswood, Pearland, Clear Lake, and Galveston. And certainly people are enjoying what the information you're bringing forth today, but when they see your presentations, they are equipped with information current to that moment because this stuff is always changing. In addition, not only do you bring forth the great information, things that people want to hear and know about, but you do it in an entertaining and an engaging way that people love year after year. These presentations, if you're just finding out about Dr. Jones, these presentations are highly anticipated, and these are just the ones you're doing in Houston. What else you doing in the United States? You're doing over like about 150.
I do 150 a year, everything from Maine to Key West to Seattle to actually Fairbanks, Alaska. Last week I was in Phoenix, Arizona. Speak occasionally in California. Every place, all over the country. We're the most people don't realize we're a Fortune 1000 company, Stewart. We're traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Not only do we have approximately 800 individual offices around the country or branches you can walk to that have Stewart's name over the top that we own, we have approximately 3,000 independent agents that we underwrite, mom and pops locally in the community. You may not think that it's a Stewart agent. You're getting a Stewart, but you get a Stewart policy because of his, Acme title or whatever. But we have a big presence. We're the fourth largest title insurer in the United States of America.
Over 125 years old. And that's right. And as far as your presentations goes, what's interesting is, as you mentioned, Maine, California, Houston, each and every presentation, because you've been to all these places, is so much more valuable because you know what's going on all over the country and have that feel and that insight. That's also why they're so powerful and interesting.
I think one of the reasons that real estate agents and brokers like me so much, I'm not the local expert on housing or commercial real estate. I'm pretty good on the trends on the economy, which relate to the demand for those two factors. But I've always said this: if you wish to purchase a home, I'd find that top realtor in that neighborhood, that price range I'm looking at, because that's the local expert I want to use. I was chairman of the Houston Association of Realtors in 2004. I still use a realtor to find my home and complete my transactions and sell my home, because you want that local market expert, and real estate is local in nature, particularly when it comes to housing.
In fact, each neighborhood is different and has its own nuances, so indeed, seek an expert. We're going to take a short break and come right back with even more with Dr. Ted C. Jones, Stewart Title's Chief Economist and the eighth wonder in the real estate world. Stay with us, please. Stewart Insurance is proud to sponsor Real Estate Matters. As a Stewart company, we focus on uniting real estate and insurance. Our goal is for all clients to be properly insured. When you are properly insured, you're confident in the insurance decisions you make. Whether it's professional liability or homeowner's insurance, everyone deserves to be confident. We invite you to join the properly insured Stewart Insurance. Connect with us at stewartinsurance.com or call 866-798-2827. That's 866-798-2827. Stewart Insurance, stewartinsurance.com. Welcome back, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. I'm your host, Bill Napick, and a very special show. As I mentioned at the beginning, he is Dr. Ted C. Jones. One of Stewart Title's major distinctions. He is our chief economist for over 22 years. Dr. Jones, welcome back.
Great to be back.
We mentioned in the first segment about recession, that you don't see one on the horizon. Someday there'll be one,
sure,
inevitably.
Just
However, there are some other things to talk about when we think about that and why we're not going to have a recession in short order.
Well, like we told you, recession's 2 consecutive quarters of decline in the total value of goods and services we produce. 68% of the goods and services we produce is measured in retail spending. Now, we just came through, Black Friday and Cyber Monday and everything. Our Black Friday sales were up 4.2% year over year. That's not negative. That's 68% of GDP. Our Cyber Monday sales were up with one of the first estimates says 4.1%. And the National Federation of Retailers says that we're probably going to be about 4% up in total holiday spending this year, which says we're just not in a recession. We don't have one. Part of it is that consumers are feeling good about the future. So I have what I call my blood pressure test. My blood pressure test, I call it that because when you go to your doctor, the first thing they do is take your blood pressure. It's an overall indicator of your health.
After your insurance card, but yes.
You're correct on that. Yes. But the blood pressure, it doesn't tell you what's wrong. It just tells you if something is wrong. And so my blood pressure test, I look at employment and leisure and hospitality. And my logic is we don't spend money on leisure and hospitality unless we feel good about the future. And I'm talking everything from resorts to spas to expensive dinners to vacations to cruises. Our leisure and hospitality job growth rate's 2.55% nationwide. In the U.S., our total job growth is 1.47%, which says we feel great about the future. Now, let's talk about the inverted yield curve. You mentioned that. And the reason we're going to mention it is the press makes a big deal about this inverted yield curve. But let me put it in English. The longer you borrow money for, typically the higher rate you pay. So if you borrow for 2 years, it should be a lower rate than 10 years. So the U.S. government borrows money. They use treasuries, treasury bonds and bills. And so what they call an inverted yield curve is when the interest rate on a 2-year treasury is greater than on a 10-year treasury. Because that doesn't happen very often when short-term rates are higher. So August 15th this year, we had an inverted yield curve. In fact, the 2-year treasury rate was 0.07% greater than the 10-year rate. Like we could measure that, but they did. And they came out, and we literally had 80% of the news coverage in August stating, we're going to have a recession. We're in a recession now. No, we're not in a recession. We're going to have one. Sure, we're going to have one, but just not now. And their logic was this inverted yield curve. In fact, I'll quote this Market Watch, which is kind of quoting everyone else's press. A yield curve inversion along the 2-year and 10-year treasury spread has come before the last 7 recessions. Now, that's true, but so let's just back up. We had an inverted yield curve in May of 1998. Guess when the recession started? 34 months later. Almost 3 full years later, we started a recession. So it's like me saying, oh, a inverted yield curve says we're going to have a recession. It's like me telling you if you were born, you're going to die. Yeah, we all know that, but not now.
It's not even on the horizon.
Not even on the horizon. That's exactly right. Then I want to do one other thing. just because you have an inverted yield curve also doesn't mean that the economy is going to get soft in the next 12 months. Just look at this. We had an inverted yield curve in August of 1978. In the next 12 months, the stock market went up 3.1%. Had another inverted yield curve August of 20th, 1980. In the next 12 months, stock markets went up 5.6%. Another one in December 9th, 1988. 12 months later, the stock market was up 25.9%. Had another inverted yield curve May 26, 1998. 12 months later, stock market's up 19.3%. You getting this yet? If an inverted yield curve gives those kind of increases in the stock market, let's have one today.
Have another one.
That's right. Have it today. So.
Well, and there's so many good things going on when we talk about unemployment. What are the statistic in the last 50 years since we've had such robust employment? There are so many indicators. You're talking about leisure and hospitality. What about restaurants? You talk restaurants where we could have high-dollar dinners. We've never had so many in Houston, Texas since I've been here.
It's amazing. The Federal Reserve has two jobs. Most people don't realize this. Their first job is to have full employment. So they're supposed to do monetary policy that results in everyone's employed. They define full employment as when our unemployment rate's between 5 and 5.5%. Our unemployment rate today, both nationwide and in Houston, is 3.5%. Our unemployment rate's the lowest it's been in 50 years. That's an amazing. Second job.
It's incredible.
It is incredible. And the second job that the Federal Reserve has is control inflation. Now, we learned from Ben Bernanke that they start to control inflation when it gets 2% or above. Shoot, our current rate of inflation is 1.8% to 2.1%. Inflation is not an issue. So we have a Federal Reserve that's just not having to do a lot to take care of things. Our average hourly wage in the latest 12 months is up 3.1%. This last 12 months, we've had the highest wage increases we've seen in 10 years. So not only do you have more people working than ever before, they're making more money than they may have made ever before, or at least more than they've made in the last 10 years.
What about new car sales?
New car sales, it's one of the key statistics I look at every month too. I always said as long as you're running above 16 million net new car sales, lightweight trucks and autos. By the way, no one buys a car anymore. When's the last time someone bought a sedan? It's all SUVs.
It's SUVs. It's
trucks.
Here in Texas. It's trucks, Suburbans, all the big cars.
But that said, anytime we're above 16 million, we're just not worried about it. We're well above 16 million. But what's even more important today is right now we're purchasing more, not just more cars, that's 16 million plus. We're purchasing more cars that were built in the United States of America. Intriguing. We talked about earlier, every Toyota pickup sold in the world is made in San Antonio, Texas.
Sold in the world.
Yeah, every X-Series BMW sold in the world, whether it's left-hand drive or right-hand drive, is made in Spartanburg, Tennessee. 4 models of Mercedes are built in Alabama. Y'all get this yet? We're becoming one of the major places to assemble cars and build them, just not to sell them. Great options for the industry. That's one of the reasons why our manufacturing jobs have come back. And good news is, why do I like manufacturing jobs so much? You don't have to have a college degree and college debt to have a good career. And helping our manufacturing jobs for your trade helps without question, but as much as that, cheaper energy, more affordable energy helps us produce energy that makes manufacturing here an economic reality.
Real estate professionals here, let's talk about those that are here in Houston, Texas. We've had a lot of things. The term disruptors has been on the minds of people here lately, this past year, we'll say. But what are some of the things that real estate professionals should be aware of that you think are upcoming in 2020? And how should, if you were a realtor, maybe better put, if you were a realtor right now approaching 2020, what would be the things that you would keep in mind to continue to, let's say you're successful, to continue to be successful and to increase your business next year? What would you think about?
Well, first of all, I think the consumers are much more sophisticated and informed than they've ever been. Go back 30 years ago. But by the way, 30 years ago, the MLS booklets weren't online. They were printed in paper once a month. You wanted to see what houses were for sale, they'd kind of pull out the Sears catalog and show you, here's what we printed up 27 days ago, and here's what was available at that point in time. We don't know what sold between now and then. So we're seeing a sophistication that's going on with information and knowledge. As a result, our realtors used to just drive us around and show us properties. Today, realtors are much greater value add than that. Look at the new residential brokerage models. You know, you look at these iBuyer things. Zillow, we have companies we haven't even heard of 10 years ago. Zillow, Zillow, Open Door, and these others. This new iBuyer thing, what it is, what's pretend you're not affiliated with real estate. What's the worst thing about selling your home?
I would say the time, the preparation,
time and prep,
the fixing up,
sure, all that stuff,
and then the move.
And then the move. So what if I told you I just come in and offer you a price for your home? You don't have to fix it up. You don't have to clean it up. You don't have to get rid of the dogs. You don't have to mow your lawn.
It's a convenience.
It's a convenience. And so that's what the iBuyer is doing. These instant buyers, they're saying, you know what? I'll buy your home from you as is. Oh, by the way, I'm going to make some money on you. That's fair enough. But I'll just go ahead and buy it as is, and you don't have to worry about it. There's no appraisal. There's no inspections. There's no nothing. But you can just walk out of your house today. That's what iBuyers are doing. We have companies, Open Door kind of started it, Zillow, publicly traded company in the New York Stock Exchange also. But these companies are now saying, shoot, we'll just buy your house direct. And then what they do is they purchase it from you. They then fix up, they're becoming flip companies, and they sell it back. And you've heard a lot of real estate brokers and agents saying, oh my gosh, this is going to change our industry. Well, changed a little bit, but let's look at the perspective. You know, we're selling about 5.5 million, 5.4 million existing homes per year right now. Zillow, which is kind of the big dog on this iBuyer stuff, their goal is to purchase about 5,000 a month in about 2.5 years from now. They're doing about 2,800 a month right now.
Countrywide?
Countrywide. And they're not going to be in all markets and not on all price range because this model doesn't work on everything. So even if they hit their 5,000, that's 60,000 home sales a year compared to 5.5 million total sales. It is a feature that some sellers and buyers would like to take advantage of, but not everyone, not the masses. Again, I'll actually tell you, I truly believe that the real estate professional, broker, and agent today has a higher value add in the real estate transaction process than any time. National Association of Realtors does a profile of home buyers and home sellers, and it's just not the price. It's just not the price you pay for the property. It's negotiation on other things. Who pays for what improvements? That's what people value in a real estate agent and a realtor is the negotiation skills and set. And the simple fact that they are the local market expert. And real estate's, particularly on your house, it's all local. It is not an international property if it's your home. It's all local in nature. And I guarantee the real estate agents, if I'm buying and selling, I'm dealing with that real estate agent that is that local market expert, because that's the kind of expertise and wisdom and knowledge I want.
And it's important as they walk you through the process, because it's something that people don't do that often unless someone's flipping homes or a company's flipping homes. But the average person, I guess, doesn't do it 7 years or whatever the statistic is.
And talk about another change. We used to thought we would sell our home every 7 years, and then it got to 8 years, and now it's 11 years. And so we're not selling and transacting as much as we used to. So those sales are even much more important to us and more value potential than we talk about that today.
In fact, 2-3 doors from my house, there's a home that's listed by Zillow, but it has a real estate professional on the sign. So I guess they bought the house, and then now they have enlisted the service of a realtor.
Buying a home that Zillow's repaired, what have you, is no different than buying it from any other person who's gone and repaired, painted, fixed up a house. And indeed, Zillow has just listed that house with a local real estate agent. How about that? It's just a different service. Do I want to buy a home as is and repair it? Then Zillow is doing that. Some investors used to do that. But if I want to buy a home that's completely ready to go, then just look at the market, and some of those are being sold by Zillow and other companies such as Open Door, Clover, and some of the others like that.
Interest rates have never been lower. Rent versus buying. I would think that the super low, I say super low, it's super low. The interest rate right now would lean people towards buying, those that were saying, I just want to rent for a while.
So first of all, I'm going to tell you that renting is an advantage to some people. If you're going to be in a house or a location less than 3 years, I'm going to encourage you to rent. By the way, still call your local realtor, because they have HAR.com, for example, has a great supply of homes and apartments and condos listed available for rent. But let's just talk about renting. I'll just use Houston as an example. According to Rent Cafe, and by the way, Rent Cafe is kind of like Realtor.com. If you're looking for a house any place in the country, you go to Realtor.com. You can pop in a city and you're going to look at the listings that the realtors have. If you're looking for apartment projects, you go to companies like either Apartment List or Rent Cafe. And they're going to have every major apartment project. You're going to get to see pictures of insides of apartments, what the typical one looks like, the amenities that they have, location maps, kind of like Realtor.com, but it's just for apartments. According to Rent Cafe, the average rent for an apartment in Houston, Texas is $1,111 per month. It's up 1% in the last 12 months. That apartment size is 879 square feet. Okay, so, and by the way, 39% of the housing here is renter occupied. So it's just not a small minority. But now let's look at that. So you're going to spend $1,111 renting a typical apartment. So how much can you buy for that? Let's assume you got a down payment 20%. So let me take you through those numbers. First of all, $1,111. Current interest rates are 3.68%. On a 30-year mortgage, you can service a loan totaling $241,967. In other words,
I was going to say $250. That was the wild guess.
Yeah, that's good,
Close.
Man. So what I'm saying is, you could either rent an 800 and some square foot apartment, or you can buy a home that had a mortgage up to $241,000. Our median home price in Houston last month, according to the Houston Association of Realtors, $239,900. If you put 20% down, not everyone has that, but I got to answer for that one in a minute. It means you put down $47,980. You're going to borrow $191,000. Your monthly mortgage payment for principal and interest is $882. That means, compared to renting, you've now bought a medium-priced home. Instead of renting and paying $1,111, you pay $882, and principal and interest, and you have $229 per month left over to pay your taxes and insurance, which it'll be pretty close to doing, not exactly. But now, if you don't have that 20% down, that $47,980, let's look at FHA, typical first-time home buyer. Now, FHA rates today are 3.5%. So we're still going to buy the median price. So we're not going to live in an 800-some square foot apartment. We're going to use that $1,111.
Probably have a garage, too.
Oh, it probably will. So they only require 3.5% down on FHA loans, $8,397 down payment. That means you're going to have a mortgage buying the median price home of $231,504. Your monthly mortgage payment, principal and interest, is $1,040. You still got $71 to add to taxes and insurance. Won't quite cover it, but how about that? You could be getting some tax advantages. You could also be participating in any potential appreciation. And historically, home value has gone up. Not always. They have gone down in the past. And you would be a homeowner in Houston, Texas. And how do you find out about this? Why don't you call your local realtor? Those local realtors, they know these mortgage systems. They know who the lenders are in many circumstances. They can show you listings. And I'm talking about the median price home. That means half of them are priced less than that. Half of them are priced less than that. Call your local realtor. They are a go-to resource, folks.
In addition, there are so many new developments and new construction out there at these price points around the area as the city is growing in all directions. There's bargains also to be had in addition to just getting a good price.
Exactly right. And what I've always said this, and I'm only going to talk about Houston and maybe San Antonio and some other cities in Texas, but our builders here in Houston, Texas, give the buyer a tremendous bang for the buck. You get a lot of house for the money here, and good house. You look at our housing stocks; it's highly affordable, particularly on the new homes. You know, the typical new home right now is 20% greater nationwide than the current median price existing home. That's not necessarily true here. And because our Houston builders have been so good, they understand that we're a young city and they're building homes for those entry-level individuals for their price ranges too. Very impressed with the Houston builders and what they're offering. Big bang for the buck, so to speak.
In addition, the amount of builders that there are, and this goes to every category, whether it's restaurants, home building, we as consumers benefit from the competition in an incredible way that we get more bang for our buck and we get a quality product. My son just bought a home in the $350 range. It's got a 3-car garage. And when the heater and air conditioner is on, you don't hear it because it's insulated a lot better than the one that I have since 1992 that was built in 92. It's incredible.
By the way, Bill, when you're our age, never admit that the newer models are better than the older models.
Well, there you go.
But they are.
They can be, no doubt about it. We're going to take a short break and come right back with more. Dr. Ted C. Jones, Chief Economist at Stewart Title. Stay with us, please. Cyber criminals are on the offensive. In real estate, the average loss of a wire fraud scheme is $130,000. How do we fight these risks? Establish a good defense. At Stewart Insurance, we believe there are two sides to a formidable defense. Manage the risk, offset the risk with insurance. Concerned if your insurance is offsetting the cyber risk? Contact Stewart Insurance to determine if you are properly insured. Connect with us at stewartinsurance.com or call 866-798-2827, 866-798-2827. And welcome back. We now have, before we get to Dr. Jones one more time in our final segment, we have John Bramlett with Stewart Insurance. He's here. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bill. Nice to be here.
To hear this information, Stewart Title, I mean, this radio show is a resource. We have so many things and distinctions out there to serve people, buyers and sellers, real estate professionals, whether they're here in Houston or anywhere else. But Dr. Jones is truly is a tremendous resource for these so many years. People love the information, his passion for real estate and for information. It's incredible. I'm excited, John.
Oh, I am too, and I've been fortunate that Ted and I have known each other for several years now, and he's always been very generous with his time with me when I had a question. And the fact that he's a fellow Aggie doesn't hurt either. So
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. So you know, it's always nice to be with Ted, and I always learn something with Ted. So it was exciting to know that he was our guest today on show 306.
There you go. It's incredible. So let's tell people, what are the things that you're thinking about today that people should know about?
Well, we've had a series of conversations, Bill, recently about the survey that we did with independent real estate brokers and what was important to them from a content perspective. And the number one was from a sales and marketing perspective. So we've been sharing some, tidbits or pieces of information that could help folks be more successful in their sales efforts and specifically help our realtors and our real estate brokers. So I wanted to kind of, continue that conversation a bit today. We had talked previously about a sales congruency and that idea that those 5 buckets coming together, that the more that we believe in what we sell and we follow the tasks that are necessary and that we have a positive view of selling, the more successful we're going to be. Last week we talked about the sales process and the one that Integrity Selling uses, the 8-ink process. And today I wanted to talk a little bit more about some key questions to ask and a kind of an understanding of the gap that can exist between where a client is and where they might want to be. And another great resource for our listeners is a book called Gap Selling by Keenan. And it's another really, really good resource and very practical knowledge and guidance on the selling process. Because as we've talked about many times, Bill, we're all salespeople. Regardless of what our task is, regardless of what our job in life is, we're all salespeople, whether it's an internal sell, an external sell, a sell within the family, or for your clients. We're all salespeople.
Indeed we are, and it's interesting to see as we've had real estate professionals, salespeople primarily on the show, the different models that they use and the influences that they have in terms of inspiration, and each respective broker has certain training programs in place. But that's right. It is well known and adopted by most companies and real estate professionals that we have that internal and external customer. And we think about it when we're at our own sales meetings. I mean, we sell and we want to persuade, and we also want to promote our ideas and hope that they gain acceptance. In a way, that's the essence of selling, providing a solution, providing inspiration for someone. Even when we talked about the idea of renting versus buying, sometimes it's someone planting that seed as sales and planting that seed to someone that might be renting and say, listen, do you realize that maybe you do want to rent? However, if you put this money towards a home at this particular price point, you would own a home.
Well, that's exactly right. In Keenan's book, he talks about that you have a current state and a future state. So the current state is where your client or customer is, and the future state is where they want to be or they need to be. And sometimes they don't know until a salesperson comes in and helps them. And that gap or that space between the current state and the future state is where we play. And that's where our job is. And our job is to help those clients get from that future state to that current state. And that's where the value lies. And if we can recognize that pain or recognize that difference and help them get there, then that's where, as a salesperson, we're really going to be valuable. And he talks about some really key questions that a salesperson must answer in order to truly be able to help a client. And the questions are, what is the buyer's looking to accomplish? So do you truly understand what that buyer is trying to accomplish? In this case, do I want to own a home? Do I want to rent a home? How can I help them? So what are they truly wanting to accomplish? And then what would solving these problems mean to their organization, their employees, or to themselves? So what would be that true value? If I was able to help you solve that problem, Bill, what would that mean to you? And if you can know those two things, then you've got a chance to have a sale. If you don't, you're probably not going to have a sale.
Understanding and listening is so important. We think about the idea of listening. In my world, I talk a lot, but I have to remind myself every now and then. And in past years, it's been one of my goals to be a better listener. That to be able to do the things that this author is talking about, you got to listen and be mindful that sometimes, not everybody, some of us have to stop talking and listen.
Well, it does, because what it allows us a couple of things. One, we all have a tendency to listen to respond versus listening to understand. So we all need to work
Better
at that.
put, yes. Let's say that again. Listen to.
We tend to listen to respond versus listening to understand. The other thing that does is, if you truly are paying attention, it allows you then to ask even better questions. And that's ultimately how you're going to get to know either where your client wants to get to or where they need to get to, because through that listening and through asking those better questions, the what's and the why's questions, you're going to have a better opportunity to truly help them.
There you go. Also, John, if people need to reach out to you, Stewart Insurance, this is a great time of year for people to assess where they are, to think about where they are in their insurance needs, and to make sure that they are, and the term is, properly insured. Not just have, hey, do I have a house policy, a car policy, do I have that flood? Are you properly insured? They can reach out to you at
866-798-2827. That's 866-798-2827, or they can touch us at stewartinsurance@stewart.com.
and simply have a conversation to find that out in short order. And when they call that number,
866-798-2827.
I love that number. When they call that number, they can talk to someone and not go through a bunch of voice prompts. Now we're going to bring back Dr. Ted C. Jones, our chief economist at Stewart Title, for the final minutes of the show. We'll wrap this thing up. Ted, what are the things that we may have not gotten to? And there are many, but what are the important things that you want to make sure people know about?
So I want to tell you how lucky you are to live if you're in Texas or Houston. And even though y'all live in many places around the world where we're hearing this today, we're going to look at the 12 months ending October. We're going to look at Houston single-family home sales. Our sales are up 1.6%. That same period of time in the U.S., existing home sales were down 2.2%. That's a big swing. So we're sitting here with sales, even with low interest rates, sales are down nationwide, 2.2%. We're up 1.6%. Another thing, we always talk about affordability being an issue. Not as big an issue in Houston, still an issue. Nationwide, the median priced home was $255,700. In Houston last month, it was $241,400. Our home values only went up 3.8% versus 3.9% gain in the U.S. So our homes aren't going up as much in value, and yet we're selling a lot more of them. That can't go on forever. So what it says is people have been purchasing, if you look at supply and demand and what have you, they're in a good mix because our home prices aren't appreciating as much. So good time to buy a home in Houston, Texas. Just call your local real estate agent. They can show you your options. If you're going to be here less than 3 years, consider renting, because economically, given transaction costs, you may be better off. Overall, the U.S. economy, I think we got another good year in front of us. When I say good, we're 12% above the 40-year average right now. Even if you drop, you go from that 1.47 to 1.31% job growth rate, we're then at the 40-year rate average. And average isn't bad at all. It's boom and bust, or both four-letter words and unsustainable.
And growth doesn't come, and the great economy doesn't come without challenges. And one of the big ones I see is traffic. I mean, I don't care what part of town. You could be at Post Oak near our corporate office. You can be in Katy, Texas. My goodness, it's never been more challenging to move around the city in a vehicle.
Goodness sakes, when I moved to Houston, it'll be 23 years ago this coming March, my wife was very gracious. We ended up living just 1.1 miles from the office, Stewart Title's global headquarters on Post Oak. And the reason I stated that is I've had enough road therapy in my life. And if you're on that road, you're having road therapy, and I'm road therapied out. I'm done on that one. Now I don't even have to drive on a loop or a interstate highway to get to the office. And I prefer that. But again, that comes with old age because you hopefully built some equity up and purchased a home that's not quite as affordable as out in the burbs. On the other hand, if you're buying your first home, those burbs are incredibly affordable in Houston, Texas. But like you, travel. I like living near where I work.
Indeed, and it's so helpful. And in fact, sometimes with this growth, there are so many things that trigger a real estate transaction. As we're so congested, there are people that are saying, I'm going to pay the extra money and move closer, and that in itself, there's a real estate transaction there, right, John?
Absolutely. So, we have so many opportunities here in Houston, and I think the key is just to kind of take a look globally at what that purchase is going to be. So, as you want to follow Ted and his blog, so you get a feel from an economic perspective what's happening. You want to deal with your Stewart Title business development officer to make sure that you get some guidance for that neighborhood that Ted talked about, and then find a realtor that focuses in the area that you would like to live, so you can kind of get that guidance. And then I guess the final piece of the puzzle would be to work with an insurance advisor that truly understands the real estate market, like a Stewart Insurance, to make sure that's part of that financial equation.
Stewart Insurance, where they can call you at
866-798-2827.
And I want to remind people, you want to see Ted right there here in Houston, Texas, as he's going to be all over the United States in 2020. You can see him and reach out to your Stewart Title Business Development Officer. They are true resources for you in so many ways, but they will connect you with the presentations that Ted is giving. Starting January 14th, he's giving 2 in one day right there at the Amegy Bank Building on the West Loop. January 16th, again, the Woodlands and Fort Bend County. January 17th, Tomball, Champion. We have so many areas in Houston. And Cypress, Katy, and Kingwood on the 20th. So you don't need to remember this. And the 21st, League City Friends with Pearland, Clear Lake, and Galveston. You don't need to remember this. Just reach out to your Stewart Title Business Development Officer, or just Google Stewart Title to the closest location. Just tell them you want to see Dr. Ted C. Jones and have a great time and learn about what's going to happen in 2020 and also some of the things that Ted will be presenting there. It'll be tremendous. That's in January 2020. And before we leave, a final word, Dr. Jones, let's tell them again how they can reach out to you. They can follow you on Twitter.
Twitter, DRTCJ, or you can read my blog, blog.stewart.com, or if you want to find that link without memorizing that, just Google Jones on real estate. It'll take you to the stewart.com site.
It's that easy.
That's easy.
Quick word, restaurants. Restaurants are also telling of the economy, and we've had some new restaurants here in Houston, high dollar and everything in between. It's a great restaurant city, Ted. I love it.
Houston's a great food city, and so, but we have some great. Isn't it neat too that we have? You look at both Tillman Fertitta with his Landry's Empire, Morton's and the whole works. You look at the Pappas Brothers. We are a city that's food to the roots, and back just like Stewart Title 125 plus years ago.
I'm getting hungry right now. Thank you all for listening to Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. I am your host, Bill Nampick, and don't be sad that the show is ending at the time of broadcast, because why? Because it never really ends. You can always go to stewart.com/Houston. That's right, stewart.com/Houston. And hear any and all the shows. That's right, they are there for a resource for you. You can go back and hear show number 251 where Dr. Jones was on that and hear what he talked about back then. That was February, right when he got back from Alaska, if my memory serves me well, and sometimes it doesn't. We'll see you next week. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Stewart.com/Houston. Google Jones on real estate and get on Dr. Jones's DRTCJ Twitter handle. Until next week, we'll see you then.